well, maybe we're not really going to get along that well. I thought, we were Italian, but if he was Italian, he was sort of East Hampton Italian. I was East Vancouver. And if you had witnessed this, you'd probably ask yourself, you'd probably doubt that this would have become a lifelong friendship. We were the most unlikely guys to become friends, but friends we did become. And in 1983, we became partners in business. I convinced him to come over to the firm I was working at. We did have one thing in common, though. We were driven, and we were hungry. We wanted to make it. And we weren't that smart, though. We had a lot more enthusiasm than we had brains. And we got ourselves into all sorts of messes, lots of ups and downs. But in the end, mostly ups, and we ended up doing very, very well along the way. But, when you know someone for that long, you really get to know who they are. And I know a lot of you here know him well. I think I know him very well. And there's some things that you may or may not know about Rick, who Rick was. And I think, and you might find this surprising, but Rick was a romantic. And yes, he was a romantic. And I know he put on that very hard exterior personality. But deep down, he was a lover. And he gave himself away many times with me, usually one-on-one. He really, truly believed in true love. And despite, that whole cynical facade that he put on that most of us know him by, he loved his kids, He, as far back as I knew Rick, he talked about family. So Maxine and Marcello, he was talking about you guys about 20 years before you were born. And I think family was really, really important to him. He was a gentleman. Over the last few weeks or so, I've had a lot of calls and emails from friends, people that had met Rick along the way. And the one word that kept coming up was gentleman. Everybody described him as a gentleman, and you had to know him if you do know him. He was very polite. He was real. His conversations were very real. He was down to earth, and he was honest in his conversations. So he was a true gentleman. But mostly it was a strength that I admired. Rick was a very strong guy, very strong, and he was very proud to maintain his dignity. And very private individual, but he kept, his troubles to himself. There was never any drama with Rick. And right up until the end, he kept his strength and his wry sense of humor and that characteristic smile of his, that trademark smile of his. It was right till the end. He was a very strong guy. A lot of other things about Rick that we can talk about, and I'm sure I'll mention them just as an honorable mention, just because I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this with Rick. How many of you had that hold the phone 6 inches from your ear conversation with Rick? I know I have, and he used to let rip on the phone sometimes. And how about being at an event or a dinner party and it becomes 9 o'clock at night and you look around the room and there's no Rick. He's gone to bed. And that's the way he liked to live his life, and we all used to smile about it. How many of you knew that he made homemade canned jalapeno peppers? The best. I think the recipe came from his father. He taught me how to make it way back in the early 80s. And we used to sit around my kitchen, we'd fry up these jalapeno peppers and just put them on bread, and we'd eat them until our eyes just watered. But it was so good, and I still have. I was looking on my kitchen counter today, and there's a jar sitting there. But I'll tell you the one thing that defined Rick was Clayoquot. And I know Blaine mentioned it earlier in church. You want to talk about a labor of love, it was Clayoquot. And I remember when he first took me up there, I guess it was 17 years ago, and it was just a barge in some remote bay with a little waterfall at the end of it. And Rick says to me, I'm going to build a resort. And I rolled my eyes and I thought, brilliant Einstein, you're really going to build a resort here. But he got the last laugh. It was a lot of work, but he did it. It's a world-class resort, and it's certainly going to be his legacy. And speaking of Clayoquot, our summers, me and my kids, wouldn't have been the same without Rick, with Rick's hospitality. There were two staples in our summer for years and years, Muskoka and Clayqua. And I know that my kids will have those memories for the rest of their lives, because we talk about it all the time. And those were just a few of the trips that we did together. We did many trips, had many adventures. And it just left enough pictures in our mind of just what a great gift it was to know Rick. It's really sad and beautiful to know someone their entire lives. You get to have all the ups and downs, the arguments over things that are so trivial you can't remember what they were anymore, the times when we were not speaking to each other, the times when you apologize, the relationships, the every part of it. And that's the part, and it was the laughter really that made it the most memorable part, and that's the part that I remember most. But if there's one valuable lesson that I've learned from knowing Rick, and what I've learned about friendship from knowing Rick, is that true friends tell it the way it is. And Rick never had a problem with that. He was not bashful about telling you how he felt or what he thought about you at that moment in time. And I was on the receiving end a few times. He gave it to me a couple of times, and I was really thankful because I deserved it, first and foremost. And really, at the end of the day, it made our relationship very strong and very real. It's like that song that says, say it loud and say it clear, it's too late when you die. And I'm thankful that, we had our ups and downs and we said it all. And I'm actually thankful for the last couple of months of being able to spend a lot of time with Rick and having the opportunity to say everything that needed to be said. And I know that it gave Rick great peace to have his family, Effie and Marcello and Maxine around him and all the other people that loved him so much. And there you have it. It's 40 years of friendship. And now what I have is, and I think what we all have is a picture. I have two pictures in my mind when I think of Rick. One is of all those old photos of us laughing in our youth. And the other is of those last few weeks and months when we just sat and held each other's hand and just told each other that we loved each other. So we'll miss you. And thank you.